How do I build a custom user interface? It's one of the most common questions we've received over the years at The Audio Programmer, and in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to get started. We'll be covering UI implementation over these next few tutorials, and this one will cover your first steps to getting set up. This is what the user interface will look like once we're finished. We have some custom knobs here. We have a display for the notes that are being played. As you can see, the keyboard itself presses down and goes back up. We also have a level meter here at the very top. And this is what we currently have if you've been following along on the past 3 tutorials. This is just a generic JUCE interface that has no customization whatsoever. And this is what we're going to have by the end of this tutorial. So I'll show you how to take fonts and images and get them into your code. Then I'll show you how to create a styling palette that we call a look and feel, where you'll be able to create the default colors that you're going to use for your plugin, as well as the fonts and the images, so you can retrieve those and do the final step, which is displaying your first background image on the window. And as always, I have updated the code that's on our GitHub repo, and I'll put the link in the video description below. To follow along with this particular tutorial, you want to go to the For User Interface 1 branch. And then in here, if you go into the commit history, you'll be able to see the various steps to creating this tutorial, so you can follow along and grab the assets as you would like. And without further delay, let's get started. The first thing that I wanted to show you is what a finalized graphic design typically looks like when you've received it from a designer. So normally it will come something like this. As you can see, we have a background image, we have some different buttons, we have some keys, and we're going to be implementing all of these in the next few tutorials. This is the courtesy of one of our designers, Alex Van Doren, who's been nice enough to design this for us. And the way that these designs normally work is normally there will be an idea of what type of design we want, and then from there will be various conversations between the development team and the graphic designer about what will come as an image like this, or as an asset, and what parts may be procedurally generated using coding. And there are different trade-offs to those, and we can talk about those a little bit down the line. But for now, the only one that we're going to need to use today, just to get us started and getting the first image into our code, is this background image. So here I am in my plugin project as it currently stands. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder, and I'm just going to call it images. And then we'll just take this background and we'll put it into our images. And then what I'll do is I will create another folder, and I'm going to call this assets. So normally I like to put sounds, images, assets, basically anything that's coming from the outside, I like to put in one folder called assets. That just cleans it up nicely. Next, we're going to take some fonts and put those into our plugin. This is the Enter font, a very common open source, permissively licensed type of font that's used in a lot of plugins. If you don't know what type of font to use in your plugin and you're just looking for something, Enter is a great choice. So what I'll do is I'm going to create another folder. I'll just call this fonts. I'm going to take these, copy these, paste them in, and now take fonts, throw it in the assets folder. So if you wanted to have fonts, images, and sounds here in the root folder, that's fine as well. But I personally like to have these in a dedicated assets folder. It just makes it much cleaner. Next, we just need to get these into our CMake file. And a lot of people complain about CMake, but I feel that this is where CMake really shines, is because getting these in now is really easy. So one thing that I'll note to you is that I moved the sounds from the root folder to the assets folder. So the new location is now assets/sounds. So all of our locations are relative to where our CMake list.txt resides. So first thing that we need to do is we need to change this from sounds to assets/sounds. So let's do that. Next, let's get our images and fonts into the binary data section of our CMake. Okay, now we have our fonts and our image here in the binary data, correctly identified with the paths. Now, one way to test if this actually worked and if everything is successful is if you go ahead and just compile this and build it, then what you should see when you go over to your build folder. So in CLion, it'll be something like CMake build debug, but if you're working with Xcode or Visual Studio, it'll probably be build or builds folder. So what you could do is look in your build folder, and then in this JUCE binary data folder, just go in here, you'll see a binary data.h. And if you click in here, then you should see all of your assets here. And you'll see that there's one variable that just identifies the asset itself as binary data, and then another one that identifies the size of the file itself. And as long as you see all of your assets here, you'll know that everything worked successfully and it found your asset properly and everything. So we can see that it found all of our fonts, it found our background image, and now this is what we will use in order to be able to invoke this in the next stage. All right, next we're going to create a header file that will hold all of our styling and look and feel information for what the plugin is going to look like and all of the custom assets that we're bringing into the project. So commonly within a project for plugins, this is called look and feel. So I'm going to go ahead and just in my sources folder create a new header file. So I'm not going to worry about creating a CPP file since this will be small to start off with. Maybe I'll create a CPP later on, but we will just call this sampler look and feel. And I'm going to put this in here, add it to Git. I will get rid of this, and I'm going to use pragma once to fit with the styling of our other source files. Now it's important here to make sure that we add this to our CMake list so that we have this in our as a compilable source file. So sources SamplerLookAndFeel.h. Oh, and it says this file does not belong to any project target. The way to fix this is to go back and rerun our CMake. So let's go to our CMake tab. We will just reset cache and rerun. And that should fix that problem because it's just adding it to our CMake project here. Okay, the next step that we're doing is we're going to bring in the JUCE graphics library because we're going to use the colors class from the graphics library. And then we've created 3 namespaces, and this will allow us to have some colors that we'll be able to select from. In the font section, we'll have our fonts that we'll be bringing in, and then images, we're going to bring in our background image that we imported earlier. First, we'll create 3 different colors. These are 3 shades of gray that we'll be using for our user interface. These are shades that we've arbitrarily picked from a discussion with the graphic designer for use with the user interface, and we'll be using these in future tutorials. Now let's bring in our binary data. That's our fonts and images from earlier. And the way that we're going to do that is first to include binary data.h because that's where our assets are stored as binary data. Next, we're going to bring in one of our fonts. In this one, we're bringing in our regular font. And this is a little bit of JUCE/C++ gymnastics that we're doing here to, so we're creating this variable called typeface regular. We're calling it static because we want only one instance of this object. We don't need to create multiple typefaces for this font. And then this is how we invoke it with the arguments. We're calling the font itself and then the font size. And that's just how you call it from the binary data file. So just to show you where that is really quickly, that is back over here in binary data, in binary data.h. And that's where these variables are coming from. Okay, just to show you that they're not coming from nowhere. And this error is actually erroneous. I can't seem to disable it. It's a little bit irritating, but yeah, it compiles just fine. Let's go ahead and do this for our other fonts. So now we've created the variables for each one of the fonts that we're going to use. And what we're going to do now is create some simple functions that allow us to grab these fonts and use them when we need them. Here's what one of these functions looks like. First, we're going to mark it as inline. The reason that we want this to be inline is because despite this function potentially being called across multiple source files, we want them to all use the same typeface regular object, and inline ensures that we do that because we don't want to create multiple objects for each time that we use this. So that's why we have to mark this inline, and we're returning a JUCE font, so that will enable us to write with that font a little bit later. And notice that I've set the height default to 14. So if I want to change this, then I can override this and do a different font height, but we've decided that the font height will be 14 by default. And what this is returning is a JUCE font, and then this is just the argument that we need that returns the typeface with the height that we want, which is 14. Also notice that this is in brackets. We could have just used something like, alternatively, we could have said JUCE font and then done it like this. And that would have been fine. But ClangD does give us a warning here, and it's a little bit cleaner to do it the way that I have it here. So just like this. So you don't have to actually say JUCE font because that's already implied that that's the return type. And I've just done the same sort of thing for the medium and bold fonts. Same sort of thing, returning the JUCE font with this, which is getting our different font types with the desired height that we want. Just a small note here that I'm adding this little comment. This is a good practice to pick up, especially when you have multiple namespaces within the same source file. So at the end of each namespace where we're closing this off, I just have a little comment that's saying that this closing bracket applies to namespace colors. I've done the same thing here for namespace fonts, and we'll do the same thing here for namespace images. And that just cleanly marks it out so that when somebody else is reading this source file, they'll know exactly when where the brackets are closing off properly. So now let's go ahead and create a function for our background image. Okay, and this is the function that we're going to use to get our background image. Once again, this is inline because we're in a header file and we only want this to refer to the same binary data. We don't want to create multiple objects of this unnecessarily. And then this function is getting our background image that we put in our assets earlier. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this in order to get that background image onto our plugin window. So let's go ahead and show you how to do that. Let's go to our plugin editor.h. Now we're going to need to add the sampler look and feel to the list of our includes. So include sampler look and feel.h. Next, we want to resize the size of our window to match with what we have for our background image. So typically what we like to do is we like to have the size of the image to be twice as big as what we're going to size the window to be. So this helps for things like if you're resizing the window, you want a resizable window that the user will be able to extend and stretch out and contract, then you want to make sure that your background image is bigger than the default size. So we like to make it twice as big. So this one is 1376 by 1032. So because of that, we're going to divide that in half and we're going to make it 688 by 516. Now we just need to draw the background on the window itself. The way we could do this is using the function draw image from the graphics library. And then from here, we just need to get our image. So we use images from the SamplerLookAndFeel class. So images, get background, so that's where that's coming from. And then here, this expects a rectangle object. So if we take a look at the function draw image, I don't know why it's doing all of this erroneous error stuff here, but this is all fine. So this takes a rectangle object, and then if you look to the rectangle and how to initialize that, you just initialize it with a initial X, an initial Y, and then the width and the height. So because of that, what we can do is we don't need to declare rectangle here. We can just brace initialize it with the arguments, and C++ will deduce that this is the arguments that you want to use to initialize the rectangle object. So that's how we're going to draw the background on our window. So this looks good, but there's a little tweak on this, which is that we have these kind of magic arbitrary numbers that are based on the size of the background object, 688 and 516. And I noticed these are entered in multiple places. So there's an opportunity here to abstract this out to a class member. And the reason that we're going to do that is that if the background image size changes, or for some reason we want the size of this UI window to change, we only need to change it in one place rather than changing it in multiple places. So this is a simple way that we can make sure that if something changes with our user interface, which is very common, then we only have to go to one place in order to change the dimensions of the window and the dimensions of our drawing, rather than having to go and manually change this in multiple places. Now there's only one other thing we need to do, which is going back to our plugin processor into the create editor function in our processor. So this initializes our plugin window, and what we need to do is change this from a generic editor to our actual plugin window, which is called Sampler Audio Processor Editor. So we're just going to change this really quickly here. And then now if we compile, we should see the background of our plugin. And as you can see, the build succeeded, and we finally have the first essential step of creating our own custom user interface. And that's the foundation in place. I know that we're a little ways from having the complete plugin, but this is what we need to get started. In the next episode, we'll do a deep dive into creating proper custom knobs using the Look and Feel class from JUCE. And that's really where this thing starts to come together. Until then, happy coding, and I'll see you on the next one.